Right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.222. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start with headlines. Mbappe's billion-dollar offer will be chatted about quite extensively. Weekly What If will be MLS All-Star Game related. Women's World Cup, we will focus on the women's team and then also, discuss what else is going on in the tournament so far. Around the world, we will hit Messi Leagues Cup and DC United, then stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. And then stay tuned for a fun chat with a very good friend of the program, Timmy Parker, who gives us the inside scoop on what All-Star Week was all about from, his perspective behind the scenes. We talked about, the dirt that he got from White House security, Wayne Rooney's post-game speech, all that sort of stuff. Stick around. As always, it's great to catch up with Tim, especially, given what's going on in St. Louis and the special season that they are having. But now it is time to welcome in our distinguished panel of beauties, and I am excited to be joined by a couple of new yet familiar faces this week. First up, we got Katie Stengel, goal scorer extraordinaire for Liverpool, and at the moment on loan at Gotham FC in NWSL. So, Katie, what I tend to do each week is and congratulations on all of your accomplishments. But what I tend to do is I introduce people and I sort of just throw a random question at you to sort of get the ball rolling, break the ice a little bit, so to speak. So for you, I've actually been dying to ask you this question, and I haven't asked you over text or anything. How did the loan deal with Gotham come about? I just sort of pictured in my mind, like you just got home from Liverpool on summer break, and you just all of a sudden just like, I'm bored. I want to go score some goals. So you just like called up Gotham and said, yo, you want somebody to score some goals? Is that basically how it went down?
Basically, I looked at a map and was like, what city looks fun? Yeah, I had a bit of time in the off season and then kind of got bored and had thought about the idea just because all the girls are gone with World Cup. And so a lot of rosters are slim and they need players. So they're looking to sign national team replacement players. And I was like, well, I can kind of use it as a loan period, just like I did. I used to go to Australia in the off season for the NWSL. So it kind of worked the same way where I was just like, okay, why not? And Gotham was the best bet. And yeah, now I live in a fun city. So
Easy peasy. Where were you going to live?
yeah,
Did you have any idea where you were going to live before the loan deal? No.
no. I just went to hang out. Boyfriend's down there. So just kicked around, sweat too much. And now I'm like, okay, this is much better.
You really were like a free agent, just like a completely free agent, free spirit. And probably the perfect little pickup for Gotham. Okay, great. Next up, we got GKU emeritus, but great guy apart from that, Jeff Attinella, who was also in DC for the All-Star festivities this week. So what was the highlight of your trip, Mr. Attinella?
Man, there were a lot of open bars, a lot of fun open bars parties. So like on a Monday night, you know what I mean? You're spending your Monday night doing something that you might hold it off for on a Saturday, something like that. But no, for me, I mean, it was fun I didn't really go up there with much of an agenda. I just went up there because I knew a lot of people were going, and I got invited to a couple different events. And I think the most fun part was just reconnecting with everybody. And it's pretty much just like a big old fashioned reunion that you have over there. And that was my first time getting to an All-Star game. But in terms of like soccer wise, I will say I played on the field for the first time. I played on the field in 2 years that I've touched a soccer ball, and participated in a 3v3 rooftop body armor challenge. I forget what the exact name. I think it was called the Creators Cup, and my team took home the trophy. So,
are you claiming? Are you
was,
claiming like basically that was your handiwork, or were you just along for the ride?
I did score one goal. I did turn the ball over twice that led to opposing teams' goals, but I'm always been a good locker room guy, like a good sideline team spirit guy. And then when the team really needed me to step up and really rally the troops and cheer them on, I think I did a fantastic job.
Okay, listen, as somebody who basically filled that role at the TST 77 tournament, I know exactly. You got to find your way, find your niche, and being a locker room guy, it's important. A glue guy.
It's valuable. It's a valuable piece to any team. I will say though that I'm not proud of how sore I was after my minimal participation in said event. like the rest of the week was pretty miserable in terms of just walking.
Yeah.
So it gave me motivation to start working out again. So at least I have that.
That's good. Listen, welcome to old age. There's just
Yeah,
gonna be more.
thanks.
There's just gonna be more of that. Oh, all right. Women's World Cup time. So the tournament is off and running with damn near everybody having played a game at this point. I think we're taping on Monday evening. I think South Korea and Colombia are the only teams that haven't played. They play their opening match tonight, soon after taping. But basically, we've gotten a look at all the teams. So we'll have some thoughts on some, if not all of them. But let's start by focusing in on the U.S. women's team. So we played Vietnam on Friday night. It was 3-0 final score. I described it as a dominant and yet disappointing win. So we pulled it out. Vietnam basically looked overmatched the whole game. We got 3 goals, 2 from excuse me, Sophia Smith in the 14th minute, and then in the first half stoppage time, and then another one from Lindsey Horan in the 77th minute. Missed a penalty. Alex Morgan missed a penalty sometime in there. Possession-wise, we had 66% possession and 28 shots to 0 for Vietnam. We only put 7 of those 28 shots on net, though. So there's just some high-level thoughts. Katie, let's start with you. Just what did you think of the performance?
I think you summed it up. Yeah, I think everyone wanted a huge scoreline because we knew this team was not anywhere near US level. But I think it's also tough because it's like first game of the tournament, you have all these nerves, you have all this stuff going on. And I mean, a win's a win. I think they just needed to get their feet wet and actually get going. But I was more disappointed with just lack of fluidity. Like they just didn't seem connected. It still feels like this like individualized team where everyone's kind of just pushing their stats instead of actually combining and playing with each other. I did like our midfield. I thought our midfield has great potential to actually link and combine because a lot of those girls are just like playmakers. So they could set people up and play these incredible forwards who are ungodly fast in the good. But I don't know. I think, 3-0 is still a win, but I think everyone wanted a lot more.
Yeah, I think the line was like 6.5 was what the odds makers were sort of putting it at. And we're coming off of the 2019 World Cup where there was a lot of talk about that 14-0 opener against Thailand. So I'm sure people had that in their mind, as can we do that again? And I thought there was possibility coming in, but yeah, it wasn't to be. What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, you talk about out shooting 28-0. That 6.5 spread is still within the realm of possibility if you're getting 28 shots. You know what I mean? I think that there's some days where you're hitting the target with those shots, and there's some days where you're just not. And it kind of seemed like one of those days where they weren't able to hit the target as much as they probably would have wanted to. But just kind of like piggybacking off what everybody said, I think that it's a different group this year. You know what I mean? You can't really go off of last year's dominance or last World Cup's dominance. You can't really go off of that same vibe because it is a team that has some new players on it, some younger players on it that are going to have to step up and kind of fill in those roles and really step up in a big way. And for some of these players, this is their first World Cup where we're so used to seeing some of these, we're so used to seeing some of these players in all the World Cups and being dominant and being very used to it. But at the same time, you have important players who are going through their first World Cup. So I think it's kind of natural that things are going to feel a little bit disjointed. But at the same time, I mean, you're talking about a very dominating performance that people are disappointed in because the scoreline wasn't, some astronomical number. But I think to expect that every time that they play, a weaker opponent isn't really realistic. But I think that obviously the next one's going to be the big test, and all those things that we're talking about, the individuality, the fluidness of play, how they're playing together, they're going to get tested next game. So we're going to find those things out really quickly. Sometimes it's hard to figure out those things against an opponent that's such a weaker opponent that, it's almost hard to not look individualistic when you're going against, players that you can be individualistic and have a lot of success. So we'll learn a lot more. I mean, the scoreline is what it is. It's 3-0. I think the U.S. women's soccer fan base is probably one of the only fan bases that could be upset
by 3-0.
It could be disappointed in a 3-0 win to start off the World Cup, and that's the bar that's been set for the team, which says something for itself. But it's the first game of a World Cup, first game of this group really getting their feet wet in this World Cup with these new players. And I mean, like I said, Wednesday is going to be the big test. So we'll find out a lot more, once the competition steps up.
Right. And that Wednesday game is against Norway. We'll get to that in just a second, because they obviously will be a test. And it's actually a great test, right? Because you play a team that very well could, I mean, we could see them again later in the tournament, if things sort of go that way. And yet, even if you don't bring your A game, even if you don't win that game, you're probably still going to advance. So it's actually kind of a nice, a nice little pre-test, if you will. But before we get to that, so Katie, you mentioned you like the midfield. Did the fluidity and individual stuff, which, as Jeff said, like, that probably playing a team that you can just basically beat two defenders each time, it probably sort of promotes in your mind, okay, I'm going to just try and do that every time. I saw Sophia Smith impressed me, and she's been impressing me for a long time. She did look like she was trying to do just a little bit too much sometimes. Can this team, is this the individuality, the fluidity, is that something that you can get better at over the course of, a tournament, but a short tournament? Do you think they'll improve on that stuff?
I think they're going to have to. I mean, yeah, as a forward, you have to be pretty selfish and take your chances more often than pass them away. And Sophia Smith has all the pressure in the world to perform and carry the team as the big time 9, wherever she ends up playing, whether she is actually the 9 or whatever. But I mean, I think they can get better at it. I think they're going to have to. And I think the more they get relaxed and actually just play, I think they'll need to look to each other to combine and get in behind, especially against Netherlands. I think it'll be a huge test because they'll actually be able to win the ball back and capitalize and actually get in behind us. And so I think we'll have to look to possess a lot more, look to actually work those partnerships, especially in the front line. So I think it'll be tough for Vlatko to figure out his best front line, whether he's going to stick with that same one from, the last game, or he's going to switch things up. And then obviously there's little nuances there, but I think it will get better as the tournament progresses. I mean, they'll need to if they want to actually win this thing.
Glad you pointed out that my whatever, my brain is so, I kept saying Norway. It's Netherlands. We play Netherlands.
I mean, yeah.
Get it together, Sam. It won't, not the first mistake. It won't be the last one I make in this episode. But okay, so I mean, you mentioned the front line. The big question I've seen a lot of sort of chatter about on Twitter is who is going to start and whether Alex Morgan is in that best 11 for us at this point. Jeff, you want to start, or you want me to throw it back at Katie?
I mean, I could start it. I don't know if I'm going to be right, but I can start it. I mean, I think she is. I think that I just rely. You know what I mean? In a World Cup, I think that big tournaments like this, a lot of it comes down to experience, and a lot of it comes down to being in the moment. And for those reasons, like in these big tournaments and big games, I kind of lean towards the person who's done it and the veteran who's kind of proven the path. Whether that's the right decision, I don't know. That's obviously for the coach to decide. But especially when it comes to tournaments and big moments, I tend to lean more towards the experience than anything else, because they know what it takes. You know how to get the best out of them, and you know what I mean. She obviously has kind of more to prove now than she probably has before, because there's never really been a conversation about it. So now you're having a veteran who has, you know what I mean, there's stations, and is she still the one that should be playing? Is she still the one that should be starting? Where I think, the veteran in her, the pride in her is going to kind of step up, and, whether she's the best player going forward or like the best player all around, that I don't know. But I still lean on that experience side when it comes to how you're setting the roster. And then you're talking about leadership on the field as well. That's somebody that's kind of driving the leadership of the team. So I would still say yes, but I could very well be wrong in that.
So I've always leaned, I actually tend to agree with you in a general sense, but there's certain situations, and you always got to be, take into account all the facts of the matter. And what I've seen, I could see her being like a real super sub. I don't know. What do you think, Katie?
I feel like in a big tournament, you kind of need to rely, yes, on experience, but also who's in form, who's been informed from the league leading into all this. And then whoever the coach puts that confidence in, you kind of want a little consistency to keep building on that. So you're not constantly thinking you're on the chopping block. If I don't score my penalty, am I going to sit the next game? So I think it bodes well for him to actually instill that confidence in her. I think he started with that when he named her co-captain. I think a lot of her ability is back to goal, linking people in and finishing in hard angles, a lot of different situations. So I think she'll get that off Sophia Smith. And you already kind of saw that partnership work out. So I think he would keep her in the 11. I think the one that I would probably switch out would be Trinity Rodman, just because there's a lot of players on the bench that are very similar playing style to her. And I think that would be a much easier switch than taking a huge step like taking Alex out of the lineup.
And do you think so this is what I always get to with the women's national team in particular. It seems like there's always a lot of, and political is not the right word, but it seems like there's, like he might not want to take Alex Morgan out because she's such a big name, and so everybody wants to see her out there, and like the fans are so behind her, and they just like need to see her. Do you think that there's pressure on him to keep her in there because of that?
Maybe a little, but I think he's more about, I want to keep her in there because of her name and her experience and what it means to the team. I think the same thing, like he brought Pino in with the group because of what she brings in the locker room and just who she is as a person versus, what she's actually doing on the field per se. Yeah. I think there's something to be said about like you were saying before, Jeff, with like being a locker room person. Sometimes you need that, and you need someone who has that character and just like brings everyone else up. Does that? I don't know.
That's what I love. That's what I like. That's what I like about the way that this team's constructed, though, because if you look at it, it's kind of like a transitional time in U.S. women's soccer, right? You have the old guard that's kind of seeing their way out, but they still could play. You know what I mean? They're still competitive. They're still going to contribute. But at the same time, you have this new wave of players that's coming in, and it's like the perfect mesh of, we have all these players who are very experienced. They've won World Cups before. They know what they're doing in these situations. And it's perfectly mixed with this young group of players who's going to be the next wave, who's supposed to carry the mantle and supposed to be winning Gold Cups, further down the road. So that's actually like one of my favorite things about this team. And I think that a lot of people don't, you know what I mean? A lot of people that you say U.S. women's soccer and you just think, oh, dominance, like we're going to dominate no matter who's on the field, like no problems at all. We're going to be the best team ever. But things like that are so important for the young development of these players. And, you know what I mean? At the same time, like you have the young players that want to make sure that you see the older players off with a gold medal. And like, so there's so many different dynamics that are involved in this particular roster, that the things that you're talking about, like the locker room leadership, having a veteran on the field to kind of boost the younger players. And, you're talking about Smith, who she might've been a little bit too individualistic. If she doesn't get away with that in a big game, you know what I mean? There's going to be veterans that are going to be telling her, hey, we need you on the field, but we need you to be doing X, Y, and Z when you're in this type of environment and not like this. So, for me, it's going to be one of the more interesting, one of the more fun things to watch is the way that they're balancing out the mix of veterans and younger players that are on the field at the same time, and kind of how they're going to figure that out on the fly during the course of a 90-minute game.
Makes sense. Well, so let's talk about the Netherlands game. I mean, this is obviously going to be a real test, a first test, really, but one that, if we fail, it's not catastrophic, thankfully. But Netherlands didn't look good in their first game either. So I think, what was the score? Did they win 1-0? What was 1-0. They beat Portugal 1-0. So I don't know what Katie, you play with and against a lot more, a lot of these players. So you come with a lot more experience than, for sure us, me and Jeff, but basically most everybody. I feel like you're actually the perfect guest for this. But what do you think? Like, what do you think of this matchup against the Netherlands?
I think it's gonna be huge, and it'll show what we're gonna do the rest of the tournament, because it's like the first actual test we're gonna have. And like you, it's not make or break. Like our bracket is still pretty easy, relatively speaking. And I think this test is going to be good for us because the Netherlands has such strong players, but again, they're still trying to find their, playing style as well. They have an incredible midfield. They've got very strong forwards, but again, a tendency to be a little more individual. They're missing their big nine. Viv is still, recovering from her ACL, and so it's going to be tough for them. I think they've been dealing with that since the Euros when she was out with COVID. So it's like they're adapting to this new, way to play without their main target. And I think it'll come down, I think, to the midfield. I think who can dominate and actually possess the ball more will create more chances. But I think it's going to be a huge test, and it'll be telling how the rest of our tournament goes.
And that sounds about right. And it sort of makes me feel better about this game, just based on how our midfield looked in the Vietnam game. And obviously, we didn't finish our chances, and that was just sort of a theme throughout the game. But as somebody who, used to try and score goals, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And, you can just sort of come back the next game and they could have scored, they probably could have scored 10, maybe even 14 goals in that game. So, yeah, I guess the fact you've sort of, validated my thinking on the midfield suggests maybe I shouldn't be, because I was kind of nervous. I'll be honest. I was kind of nervous about coming into this Netherlands game. Maybe I should talk it down. Maybe the importance of it, it doesn't matter. Because if we lose, we'll still move on. But it really does matter, I mean, like, this does, I think, as you said, it sort of sets the tone for how this team is going to play and how they're going to look for the rest of the tournament. So, it is kind of a big game on Wednesday. And I suppose maybe I'm just admitting that to myself right now. Okay, so predictions. What do you think? Do you think that we'll get the better of them?
Oh God. I don't know. I still think it'd be like 1-1. I don't think either one is going to come out dominating. I think it's going to be pretty boring until 70th minute, and then finally we'll get something. But who knows? I think if we're actually sharp and organized, especially with our very ever-changing back line, I think we'll do well. But I think if we just, aren't tuned in, especially in that first 5, that's when weird things happen, especially in a tournament like that. It changes the whole game.
Okay. So you're thinking low scoring game, though. Okay. Jeff, what do you think?
I was gonna say draw, but I can't have the same answer. Just because of everything that you've talked about in terms of where we're at in the tournament. You know what I mean? More so than anything, because I don't really see either team kind of being like, we got to go. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be the ones that are pressing. We're going to be the ones that are going to open ourselves up and really go for it. Especially just in this type of game with the group play, where like they both know if they get a draw that they'll probably be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say 1-0 for the US. But I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat of, I kind of think it's going to be a boring game. I think that, you know what I mean, unless something crazy happens early, unless there's a goal that really opens it up early on in the match, that both the teams are just going to kind of settle in and spend most of the game trying to figure each other out. But I'll say 1-0 US, mainly because I don't want to have the same answer. But
even though you were leaning, I mean,
I think low score. I do think low scoring, like very, very chess matchy. You know what I mean? Like nobody really opening themselves up and exposing themselves to too much, and kind of a more reserved game from both teams. But I'll say we come out on top.
Okay. I'm kind of feeling the draw. I kind of feel like we'll have more possession, maybe more chances, but 1-1 did sound pretty much.
Yeah, 1-1 sounds good. 1-1 sounds good.
It does. Okay. Let's talk about the rest of the tournament. So, who has impressed you, Katie?
The same ones I thought would impress me: Japan, Germany, Spain. They play good soccer, and it's fun to watch. And again, it's not just like the score lines, because again, nobody has played good teams. Everyone's played, I mean, no offense, but they're just not at the same level at all. And so these teams are able to put goals away and look really good. So I think everybody, if they look at score lines, are going to be like, oh yeah, those are the front runners. But consistently throughout the past 2-3 years leading up, they've been performing. And so I think it's no doubt they'll be the hardest test for us. France as well, but I still like the whole Haiti result was shocking to me. And I know they hit the crossbar about 15 times, but I don't know. I think they've got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and it's playing into on the field. So I think those are my top three.
Yeah, that was.
Is there drama? I don't know about the drama. What's the drama?
By the way, that was Jamaica, France and Jamaica, right? And England, because England beat Haiti, and France,
it was Jamaica, right? Yeah.
But they have a lot of the behind the scenes stuff going on with the Jamaican team. France has a lot of stuff going on as well. Spain has a lot of stuff going on. Nigeria, there's a lot. Canada. I mean, geez, now that I think about it, there's like behind the scenes stories going on all over the place. Maybe the US is like one of the few that kind of has our shit together, sort of. I don't know. Maybe
it happened. Is actually put it in, and players paid. It's a shocking thing. But no, sorry, yeah, Jamaica. One shout out early was my old roommate in Houston, Denisha Blackwood. Actually, she was playing in Houston, had torn her ACL, and then at some point had gotten waived from Houston. Ended up couldn't really get on with the club. Thought she was gonna have to get like deported because she wouldn't have a visa. Go back to Jamaica. Somehow stuck around, I think, did her rehab with her ACL, and then ended up going to a second division club in France. And she's playing there now. And so obviously not the highest level. And then just got player of the match against France's all-time best. And I was just like, it was just a really cool story. I was very proud of her. And I was like, it's funny how these things come full circle.
That's definite GOAW material right there, and hopefully she can leverage that into you can add it to your list. You can still add it to your list. But hopefully she can leverage that into, you know, like a new, I mean, like on the men's side, I know that, like, you know, scouts are, you know, crazy all about the World Cup games. Hopefully, you know, the same on the women's side, and she can leverage that into, you know, a new deal. And that's cool that she's playing in France, and they drew with France. That's got to be you know, a nice feeling for her. Who are the teams that have impressed you, Jeff?
I like Japan. I think Japan's a problem.
Yeah.
I think Japan's a problem. I mean, for me, they've been the one that I think that they definitely posed for me. If I had to put money on somebody winning, they would be somebody I would put some money down on. I think that they look, you know what I mean? They just have it all together. They're fit. They're so fit every time that they play. So for me, they've been the most impressive. But, you know, it's game one. So I think that there's going to be a lot of time to, like you said, there's been good teams that haven't been playing well because it's the first game of a World Cup. So I think that that's to be expected. Come knockout rounds, I think that I'll probably have, you know, a better conversation or more answers with it. But I like Japan. I really do.
I think it's fair. I mean, some of the teams, Japan's look great. Brazil is one that I don't know if you guys said that they looked, you know, they had.
I didn't see their whole game. I saw that golazo though.
Yeah,
that was
the goal of the tournament. There was nice, and so Brazilian. It
was like perfect. It was perfect.
It literally is in their DNA.
Yeah,
it's in their DNA. On the other side, some of the teams that haven't been so impressive. Norway. They lost to, granted, an extra motivated New Zealand team, and I know New Zealand's no pushover, but also they had that home field advantage. Norway didn't look great. Canada did not look terribly good against Nigeria. Let's see who else. England was kind of against Haiti. France, obviously, you know, they're one of the tournament favorites, and they come out with a 0-0 draw out at the gate against Jamaica. That probably rather disappointing for them. So at this point, it's funny you say Japan, because I do think that they looked like one of the, you know, the world beaters, literally. And that was against Zambia, a team that had right, I know. Imagine that. But that was against Zambia, who had just beaten Germany, by the way, in a friendly. And, you know, I don't really know what stake to put in, you know, the friendlies, especially those send-off games where we got people, not guys, but women don't want to get hurt. So I don't really know what to think about that. But the fact that Japan looked as good as they did against that Zambia team is not nothing. And they are, at the moment, I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're about 12th favorite at the moment at plus 3,300. They are far down the list. So in terms of a little value play, that might not be the worst one out there.
Who's all in front? Who's all in front of them?
So the
And
U.S.
that was after the first games.
That's as of right now, this very moment. So U.S. is still pretty heavy favorite. We're plus 250, followed by, I'll give you the next few in order. So Spain is second favorite, plus 375. England plus 550. Germany plus 650. Australia plus 1200. Brazil 1500. France 1500. Sweden 2200. Netherlands 2500. Canada 3300. And Japan 3300. So yeah, it's that. I mean, some good. I hesitate to put too much.
I'm gonna have to get out of Florida real quick.
Just sprinkle a little
legal
bit.
wager somewhere.
Just sprinkle a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
I always hesitate to put too much importance on the first game of the World Cup, right? It's just like we've seen it time and time again. Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia in the first World Cup group stage game in November, and then they went on to win the World Cup. But I feel like there's always that sort of thing, and maybe this maybe Japan will just sort of, maybe Zambia will look like a pushover all of a sudden, even though they just beat Germany. Who knows? But I do like it. I do like your call. Japan.
It actually scares me a little bit that they're that far down the list.
I know.
Just because then like, I mean, that's a really outside shot, but I liked them.
I don't mind the call. Okay. Anything else? Anything else on the Women's World Cup? It stands out.
Not after one game.
Yeah, it's early. It's early. The one thing that stands out to me is the kickoff times suck. It's just brutal. I mean, it's just absolutely brutal.
They should never schedule a Messi debut at the same exact time as the U.S. women's game again. That was. I mean, who could have saw that coming? But yeah, that kind of sucked.
I mean, it was one of those times where I was glad to have two TVs, but and actually I couldn't watch the Messi on TV anyway. You got to watch it on a phone because I'm too stupid to be able to like send my Apple TV to the actual TV. Long story, and I'm sure nobody's surprised by that little admission. But yeah, it was actually kind of cool because it was like so much going on at once, but at the same time it was like, okay, there's too much. As somebody who like wants to make some silly ass memes, I can't even do it because there's like I can't watch two games and like Photoshop somebody's head onto like a donkey. But yeah, so it just stinks that the kickoff times they are when they are, because I feel like it makes it a little harder, just like it was in Qatar World Cup in November and in December. It's just sort of, it's tougher to get everybody on board, and especially so our games, I think 8:00 Central on Wednesday against the Netherlands, and then our last group stage game is at like 2:30 in the morning. Like what? Yeah, so that stinks. Hopefully our knockout games, which we were talking about how US's success and sort of the bar where we have it for the US women, and like a 3-0 win at the opening game is kind of like that's kind of disappointing, whereas on the men's side, if we had won any game 3-0, it would be like doing dirty things to ourselves. But like the fact that it just sort of shows where our expectations are for this team. And I think another byproduct of that is that people don't even start to really get keyed in until you get to the knockouts, because like we just sort of assume we're going to be there, and we probably will, and if we didn't, it'd be a huge disappointment. But it sort of stinks. Rather have everybody on the bandwagon right now. Whatever, they'll get on board eventually. So
everybody hops back on eventually.
That's right, especially with the women, because back to back World Cup winners, hopefully. By the way, that's what this shirt is. You guys probably can't see it. It's got like 1918, 1945, 1991, 99, 2015, 2019. So it's got like the World Cups, or the World Wars, excuse me, and then the World Cups right here. Yeah, it's too small. Whatever. I thought it was cool.
It's funny. I was wondering what all the stars were. I
Yeah,
thought there might
yeah,
be I thought there might be some basketball sprinkled in there. I was curious to what they were.
could have had, you know, if it's a couple World Series
You
on
went with
there
the, you
as
went with the
well.
World War. You went with the World Wars.
Yeah, just went with World Wars and World Cups, you know, the
Big
important,
victories. Big
right?
victories
The
for the
important
country.
things.
Yeah. Definitely deserve a star.
Right. Very deserving.
Definitely deserve a star for that one.
All right. So listen, everybody get on the bandwagon. You might as well do it now because you're gonna get there eventually. So just get on the bandwagon already. All right. Now we will go to weekly what if before we hit headlines and round the world. So weekly what if. There was a lot of chatter this week about the MLS All-Star Game. And you know, it was a fun event, I guess we'll say. It kind of sucks that the team got waxed 5-0 by Arsenal. And so, you know, I think there would have been a lot of questions about the format regardless. But, you know, the way the game went down and everything sort of, you know, adds to you know, people's questions of maybe this isn't the best format for the World Cup in 2023. I understood why they did it in 2010 or something like that. I feel like the league has evolved a little bit. So weekly what if, this is a hypothetical. If you had What if you had unilateral decision making authority on the MLS All-Star Game? What format, Jeff, would you go with? You know, would you go with East versus West? Would you go MLS versus Liga MX? Would you go, you know, against a European club like now, or something completely, you know, out of the blue? What would be your choice?
I would do it as like a former player. I would do it East versus West. I don't know what that would do in terms of moving the needle for attendance and attracting that attention. I think that having Messi involved in it in any way, shape, or form now kind of changes that conversation a lot as to before, you know, getting the European side. You get Arsenal, I was up there. There were so many Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, packing the stadium. So, but I think that I would like to see them move to an East to West setup because that way too, you're getting more people involved, right? There are a lot of players. There are a lot of players that get left off of these all-star rosters that deserve it, that deserve the opportunity, that deserve the chance to be on the team, deserve the bonus, whatever comes with it. So I think the league's kind of evolved past the point of needing. I hope to think that the league's evolved past the point of needing like a big draw from a European side. But if they do go away from that, like if they didn't want to do it only MLS, then I like the Liga MX setup because it just keeps playing into the, you know what I mean? It plays into the League's Cup, plays in the Champions League, and it just kind of keeps kind of drawing the competitiveness between the two leagues, which is obviously something that they're pushing. But if it was up to me, I would do it all MLS East West just to get more people involved, and you know, you put it in a city that they actually really love their MLS team, and I think people will show up no matter what.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I as I said in the beginning, like I understand why they have European, you know, clubs involved because, you know, Arsenal fans came out of woodworks for that game, I'm sure. But I think the league has evolved to the point where we could get a you know, a stadium, especially like a soccer specific stadium in a city like Cincinnati or Columbus, you know, where people are into it. Not necessarily Chicago at the moment, I'll admit that. But you know, like one of the St. Louis, I mean, St. Louis would come out for you know, just the St. Louis side playing, you know, a USL team at this point. Katie, what do you think? You know, you got any thoughts on whether East versus West, League MX, European club, or just I don't know, bin the whole All-Star game altogether?
I think it depends on the direction of the league. If they want to make it more domestic and involve more players in the league, showcasing, you know, just like he has said, like how good they've done this season. Yeah, it should be East West. Do we need the crutch of a European club? I don't think so. And then again, if they want to push this more, you know, competition between the two leagues, then yeah, you bring in the other league. So I don't know. I think I prefer East West because I do think that we, like, you guys get plenty of people to games. And yes, put it in St. Louis, great city. Absolutely. They'd fill the stadium no matter who's playing. So it doesn't really matter.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I think we're basically at the point where you take the training wheels off and no more European clubs. That would be my suggestion. One of the interesting ones I did see on the social media was, you know, have MLS play the Saudi Arabian League which would make for an interesting game.
That would draw. Could you imagine Ronaldo versus Messi, MLS versus Saudi Arabia? That would draw.
For so many reasons. I mean, yeah, in terms of worldwide eyeballs and everything, I guess both leagues. In fact, now that you mention it, I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least some sort of low-level discussions going on somewhere, between Don Garber's underling and whoever I don't know if it's MBS. Is he running the Saudi league? I have no idea. But yeah, interesting thought somebody threw out there. And
the PGA set it up like the PGA Live Golf Challenge, but you do it for MLS also. You do it for MLS versus Saudi league. Could you imagine? That would not go over well. That would not go over well at all.
There would be some hurdles. Some
some serious hurdles.
Some hurdles they would have to get over on that one. Well, speaking of the Saudi League, now it's time for the headline. And the only headline we're going to get to this week is Mbappe. Oh boy. So news came out and it came out in drips and drabs over the course of 12 hours, but it sounds like there were first reports that Al-Hilal, one of the Saudi teams, had been sniffing around Mbappe, who, there's all sorts of rumors about him being unhappy at PSG. PSG is apparently convinced that he already has a contract, whether it's official or not, with Real Madrid, which he would join next summer for free. And of course, PSG, I mean, they got almost as much money as God, but not anywhere near as much money as the Saudi Arabians. So money still means something to them. And they do not want to lose Kylian Mbappe for €0 next summer, understandably. So, and perhaps it's just financial fair play. I don't know, but whatever. They now have said, I think officially, that they are, yes, we're in discussions with Al-Hilal. They've offered, I think, 325 million US as the transfer fee for Mbappe. They would be willing. There's a lot of different numbers on what Mbappe himself would be making. I think the ones that I saw that looked more authoritative came from Fab. He said that the contract, the actual salary, would be only 200 million for 1 year, mind you, 200 million for 1 year. But with the commercial deals and everything that else that would come with it, apparently it would get up to 700 million. 700 million for 1 year. He would play Al-Hilal for 1 year, 700 million, and then just, go on his merry way over to Real Madrid. Wow. I mean, I know that we keep talking about funny money, and the Saudi Arabian, league, clearly, I mean, they're throwing money at just about everybody except for me. I haven't seen a single cent. And listen, I can be bought. I can absolutely be bought. Somebody hit me up in the DMs if you're connected with the PIF or the Saudi Arabian League. I will say nice things, but until then, I'm not bought and I'm not paid for, and I'm not going to say those nice things. But no, I mean, literally, it started with Ronaldo. It's gone from players from every league around the world. They've bought guys from MLS at this point. They are really hoovering up players from everywhere. Mbappe is just a next level though, right? So 325 million for a transfer fee, up to 700 million, including rights and commercial revenues for Mbappe on his salary. I don't know, Jeff, what comes to mind when hearing these sorts of numbers and this possibility that seems I mean, if you would ask me yesterday, I'd been I mean, this is just smoke and mirrors. There's just rumors. It actually sounds like this is a legitimate possibility at this point.
I mean, I don't understand the business model of the investment.
Their ROI is not it doesn't seem to be playing into their balance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the business model of it, but I think more than anything, it's just kind of obviously it's an insane number to even wrap your head around when you're talking about paying somebody to do that for a year. I mean, paying somebody to do that for an entire career, it's still an insane number to wrap your head around. So to pay somebody to do that for a year, and me kind of being the sports fan that I am, it just kind of really brings to light the type of money that the Saudi Arabians are bringing to the table in terms of everything. You know what I mean? They're talking about buying NFL teams. They're talking about buying everything. And if they're willing to put up $1 billion for a player for a year, like the amount, I mean, the amount of money is just, you can't even wrap your head around it. I mean, I truly can't wrap my head around what that would even be. And then at the same time, like the one that actually caught my attention, I mean, the Mbappe thing is insane, but you talk about saying that you could be bought. The one that caught my attention, it was like the fourth or fifth division in Saudi Arabia is like willing to pay guys $4,000 a month, no taxes, free housing, and a car to like go play in their fourth division, which like that, I mean, that there are a lot of players who probably wouldn't be making that type of money here in the States or around the world that should be jumping at that opportunity if it's a legitimate thing, because that's a lot of money to be playing in the fourth or fifth division of Saudi Arabia. So I don't understand the business model of it. And I think that I couldn't fault him for jumping at that dollar amount for 1 year. And yeah, I don't know. There's really no way to make sense of it, because it's just like sounds like it's monopoly money, but it's actually not. It's real dollar bills.
Legitimately. Well, I actually got a question for you on that, but first I'm going to throw some numbers at you to try and put it in context here. So for comparison's sake, this is from Front Office Sports. So they're sort of, Kylian Mbappe supposedly actually 776 million US million for one season. That would be with the commercial and all the revenue, all the revenues all in. For comparison, LeBron James all-time NBA earnings 531 million. Patrick Mahomes deal through 2031, so for the next 8 years, not 1 year, would be 494 million. The value of the Arizona Coyotes 450 million. The New York Nets entire payroll 367 million. Tom Brady's all-time NFL earnings 225 million. Only 225 million. Oh no, I was wrong. 332 million. He's not that poor. 225 million.
I almost felt bad for him for a second.
I know. 225 million is the 2023 NFL salary cap. 185 million, the value of a Seattle Storm. I think that's WNBA. And then 157 million is Tiger Woods' career PGA earnings, which I'm sure is dwarfed by his other deals and everything like that. But still, this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know. Katie, are you just like itching for them to start a Saudi Arabian Women's League?
I would go anywhere for a year if I had that much money. Like, I would take just one paycheck and then maybe come up with a concussion the next day at training and go back home, ride out the symptoms. I don't understand how that kind of money is out there.
It's crazy.
But I mean, he has to entertain it. And if he'd still make so much money if he signed with any other club. So that's where it's like kind of unfair, because like Ronaldo, I don't know what other contract he was getting. So that was obviously the biggest payout he could have gotten. But like, that's a lot of money.
Did you see what Giannis tweeted about it?
I look like Mbappe. Can I get that money?
He said, "Hey, I look like him. I'll take the contract."
I mean, listen, NBA guys get paid well. And so if NBA, and Giannis wasn't the only guy that I saw tweeting about it from the NBA. There's some other guys tweeting about just how much money that was. And listen, they're not wrong. That's just insane. I can't wrap my head around. Somebody broke it, or like I saw some tweets breaking it down by like how much money he was making per month, per week, per day, per hour, per minute, per second. And it was like still insane. It was like 22 euros a second for a year. Oh yeah. I don't know. This would be I don't know how this goes.
The Mets, like for context, the Mets have the highest, like by far the highest salary in all of baseball, like in the history of baseball or something like that. And it's not even half. It's not even half of the money.
That is insane.
Oh,
for
man.
1 year. For 1 year,
year.
for 12 months. I think Katie's right. I think
I would take that. I would take that, and I would take that and go buy so many sports teams. I would just buy sports teams for fun. Like, yeah, I'll buy that team. Why not? That's like a third of my yearly earnings for that year. And then I'm gonna go sign like and then I'm gonna go sign for like 300 million with Real Madrid. So it's not like
Yeah, right. He's
like
gonna
I'm,
go back
you know
to
what I mean?
his
Like,
broke boy ways.
right? Maybe he comes to Miami. What if he's like, I got enough money now, I'm gonna go play in Miami.
I mean, they just got another international slot. I saw they put, trade some Gam, Tam, or Ram for it. So, they got they got extra space. I don't like. We
Oh,
can't
man.
even get into all the MLS roster rules, which don't even seem to they didn't make sense to me like a month ago. But now with all the stuff going on with Messi and everything, I'm completely lost on it. But I guess that's our transition or our segue into the rest around the world, where we will start with MLS, and specifically the League's Cup, which um, I was kind of excited about the competition. I like, maybe I'm just a simpleton, but I was like, hey, listen, MLS versus at League MX, it's a cool rivalry. It's very natural, doesn't feel artificial. It stinks that I understand why, but it stinks to me that all the games are in the US. I would really, if it just feels weird that like they have to come up here. I know why. It's like, we have all the infrastructure. League MX was cool with it because, like, they're obviously going to make more money with the games being up here. But I hope that in future iterations of this, that they're at least thinking about sort of spreading the wealth, literally, to Mexico. But anyway, League's Cup is off and running, and of course, the only game that anybody was talking about for 48 hours there was Inter Miami and Cruz Azul. And Messi coming in the second half and doing what Messi does, and last minute free kick into the postage stamp corner of the net. I saw some conspiracy theorists on Twitter suggesting that the keeper had been paid off, or and really what that's suggestive of is just like how storybook and Hollywood the story is. Like, it's just crazy that he can come on, get fouled. He was the one that got fouled, and then convert it in the whatever 92nd minute to win the game. I know Cruz Azul isn't that great this season, and Inter Miami is definitely not very good either. At least they weren't before. But still, it just what a storyline, what a game. I don't know. Is anything stood out from that game, or from the rest of the League's Cup for you, Jeff?
I'm with you. I think that part of the most fun I had as a player was getting the opportunity to travel and play in those cities in Mexico. And back in the day, the only chance you got to do that was in Champions League. So I think that it probably, like, those games might have, like, the tension of it might have meant a little bit more, because I think everybody's still trying to figure out what this actually means in terms of the rivalries and kind of what's put on it. But I'm with you, man. I think that any opportunity that you have to play against Mexican teams, it's a fun thing for the MLS. It's a fun thing to be a part of. It breaks up the MLS season a little bit, which I also think is a nice thing, because it gives teams a chance. It gives teams a chance who might be struggling in league play to put their stamp on their season a little bit more. And it's not Open Cup. Open Cup is what it is. It's a fun tournament, but at the same time, it's what I mean. You're playing against USL teams. You're playing. It's just a mixed bag when you get the Open Cup. But then when you're talking about this, you're getting the opportunity to play against Mexican teams, and that's the rivalry, right? That's the rivalry that everyone's trying to get. That's the thing that we're trying to build up in the States, is this US versus Mexico rivalry, and this is just an opportunity to partake in it. Like I said, I'm with you in the terms of the travel, but in terms of the quality of the games, like the competition of the games, I think it's all been there. So the entertainment value has been there for sure. The Timbers got to play against an MLS team, which, like, I wish that those things weren't going on, because that's just kind of a, you know what I mean? Like, you play against the same teams that you're
That
playing against
feels
all the
weird.
time. But
Right.
yeah, that was a weird one. But once teams start getting weeded out and you're starting to see this competition ramp up a little bit, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm for it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's the one thing that stood out to me from the competition so far, and granted, we're still, I guess we're done with match day one at this point. But what stands out to me is there were a lot of goals. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's, the sort of the format, the competition, the travel. I don't know what it was, but there were a lot of goals. And as somebody who likes to sprinkle just a small amount of investments on overs, it worked out well. Worked out pretty well for your boy.
I think it's a
Whether
style of play thing. I think it's a
Yeah,
style of play
maybe
thing
that's
more
what
than
it is.
anything. When you play against these Mexican teams, they're so open. But like in order, like you could play compact if you want to, but they're gonna pepper you the entire game, which that's not fun. So when you play against these Mexican teams, they open up so much and they want to play so much, keep the ball so much, and really like dynamic movements, all that good stuff. That as the MLS side, you're kind of thinking the same thing. You're like, I'm not going to sit like we don't want to sit back versus this team. Like we want to showcase what we can do as well. We want to open up. We want to play. Like we're going to try to take it to you. So whenever you play these games, like it's two teams that really want to showcase that they're good on the ball and that they can attack. And so it makes for a more exciting game, which, ultimately leads to a lot more goals because both teams are just leaving themselves just wide open every time that they get the ball.
I'm all for that. I mean, that's like why I like League MX. I watch a lot of, league and Mexican league soccer because, as you said, the games are open. They just go back and forth throwing
They don't care.
haymakers.
They don't care at all. There's
Offense.
all offense. Like you just bypass. I mean, you use the midfield pretty much as a way just to like literally just get the ball to the next stage as fast as humanly possible. And then it's just a transitional game from side to side, two teams just peppering each other in the attack. So I think the MLS teams are trying to showcase that they can do the same thing, which makes for exciting games.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Now, quickly before we move on, I had the question that I meant to ask off the top, but Messi's debut goal, as you said, kind of Hollywood storybook ending to the game. He comes on. I think they were winning when he came on. Then Cruz Azul actually, him and Busquets came on. Cruz Azul scored, and then Messi does what Messi does. And he put that free kick in the top corner in the 92nd minute. There was that debut goal. And then, of course, Zlatan's famous debut goal in El Tráfico, the volley first time volley from, 40 some yards away. Which of the two, Katie, would you say is the better debut goal?
I think Zlatan's takes such technical ability and vision that it was just something that most teams in the MLS just never see. You always see sick free kicks in whatever league you're playing in. And yeah, Messi hit that and it could have been any better, but I don't know. I'm still impartial to the last one. That was stupid.
All right. She's a big Ronaldo fan.
No, I love Messi. I was more impressed with Busquets coming in. His vision and just like playing it just took the entire game to a different level. And yes, Messi's incredible and he'll always be incredible. And so you put him in any type of moment, any situation, and he'll do well. But no, sorry. Zlatan's first, it was stupid.
That's actually
who
fair.
had the like that? Like
you make a good point. You make a good point on that. You made actually two good points because the fact you brought up Busquets, I'm glad you did because I was wishy-washy on how he's going to be in MLS. I sort of think he'll like come out of the gates hot and then we'll see. I mean, he's no spring chicken, and MLS is a really physical, fast league. We'll see how it works, but man, that his vision in just like the first 10 minutes of the game, and him and Messi obviously were just like on another level between the two of them. Like he found Messi several times in space that like I didn't even see from like a TV angle. Yeah, I guess I might have it might have just flipped me completely on the other way, and like, yeah, Busquets is going to be an absolute beast in this league just based on like 20 minutes of play. Yeah. So which goal are you taking, Jeff?
Zlatan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even close. I mean, I think that the magnitude of the moment and what it meant for the league and like what it meant for the sport in this country was Messi, because that thing's been replayed everywhere around the world 20 times by now. But in terms of just like the actual goal and just how cool it was, I was in the locker room. We were in the locker room. I actually think we were playing Chicago. I was with the Timbers and we were watching this game on TV and everyone's like, oh, there's no way. Like, there's no way he's going to do it. And he hit that goal. And the entire locker room, like coaching staff, players, everybody, before the game, we lost our minds. Everybody was going absolutely insane. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a reaction of an entire locker room of people for an opposing team, like in the Western Conference, react that way. But everyone just lost their minds. It was like the Zlatan goal was just insane. And he takes his shirt off and he's just standing there like a statue. That was so cool. That was cool.
That's fair. I mean, I remember exactly where I was when he hit that goal too. I was in Chicago at Declan's, And, you know, it's not like MLS is like, you know, must see TV, but like a lot of TVs were on the game. And when he scored that, it was clear that a lot of people were watching because the whole bar was like, you know, just went
Yeah.
up and like kind of like a goal had just been scored in the World Cup. It was just like everybody was like, wow, that was fucking awesome.
And they were like down, weren't they like down 3-0 or something? And he like had just gone off the plane. There's a lot of storylines behind that one that were just made it a little bit almost too good to be true.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that was one of those, you know, crazy El Trafico games that they came back from, 3-0 or something like that. So I actually asked on Instagram who people thought had the better debut goal, and they all agree with, well, not all of them. 56% agree with both of you guys. Zlatan's first timer was the better debut goal. I probably, if you guys hadn't swayed me, I might have said Messi just because, like, I don't know, recency bias, and I'm a huge Messi fanboy, and mostly just because I'm a huge Messi fanboy. But I, you know, in terms of the technical ability and the vision, which Katie pointed out, yeah, you're probably right. Zlatan's goal probably wins that one.
I mean,
Okay.
anybody can score. Anybody can score a free kick. Not many people are taking the 40-yard half volley on a line drive, beating the goalie.
Yeah, first
I
timer.
think he did off. I think he did off a one touch as well. Like,
yep, it's
that
fair.
was nuts.
Fair point. Fair point. Last point to touch on before we move on to stoppage time. So some rather I don't know, unsettling, disappointing, frustrating, saddening, maddening news from DC United this week. They announced on Friday that Taxi Fountas and his teammate Nigel Robertha had been suspended for what it called possible violations of league policy. So I'm going to read between the lines here, since I actually haven't reached out to, you know, Alex Bono, who's a good friend of the program, and I don't know if he'd be able to tell me anything anyway, based on whatever investigations are going on. But Taxi Fountas, for everybody who sort of hasn't been paying too much attention to MLS, Taxi Fountas was suspended last season when he was accused of, you know, using a racial slur against an opponent in a game. So he was suspended for a while. They didn't, I guess what came out was like there was credible evidence that, you know, it had happened, but they didn't really have it on TV. You know, there wasn't audio or video of it or something like that. He basically got, to me, it felt like he got kind of a get out of jail free card. And then just this week, it sounds like what happened was he went right back and did another racism. And, you know, it's not, you know, that's sort of making light of it, which it's not funny, but like his teammate then, I'm just assuming, attacked him, probably punched him in the face. And so it's just so ridiculous. Obviously, what happens now, who knows? I'm assuming that, you know, Fountas will probably be sent packing in one way or another at this point. I mean, you don't get two get out of jail free cards. It's sort of just saddening and maddening that, you know, he was under so much scrutiny after the first one, and like, you know, everybody was on him on social media, and you would think that that would be like kind of an experience where like, okay, I'm going to try and better myself and learn and, you know, try and come back better, and then to go right back and do it again with a teammate, no less. Like, I mean, like, I don't get it, but I can understand in somebody's, you know, small brain when they're like, I'm going to just use this word, which can just get under their skin or something. Anyway, that's just trying to make it normalize it, which obviously it's not. It sucks, and obviously there's no winning from that type of situation. Hopefully the team and the league move on from him. Hopefully he does get the help he needs and sort of figures his stuff out, because obviously, you know, the first brush with it did not learn him. So that's sad. But we'll move on. Stoppage time. We'll put a bow on this episode with Ivan Toney's best bets and GOAWs. So Ivan Toney's best bets. I, as everybody knows, am addicted to betting overs. And the good news is that last week I did hand out a winner. So I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back. Who was it? I already forgot who I gave out last week. It was I think it was in Bolivia. Bolivian club names are awesome, by the way. Bolivar played the strongest. That was their name, the strongest. Two words, the strongest. The strongest was not strong enough. They got their butts beat 3-0, but that's a win for the overs. So big win there. I got two more to hand out this week. If you guys want to go first, though, you're the guests, so I'll hand it over to you. If you got someone you want to throw out. Katie's like, listen, I'm in NWSL.
Couldn't tell you. I literally will play roulette and just put it on one number. I'm clueless.
What's your number?
28.
That's a good number. That's a good roulette number.
All right. Maybe I'll add that to. First of all, I never play roulette because I always lose. But if I do play roulette, I would use 10. Maybe I'll add 28 to my numbers as well. Okay, Jeff, who you got?
You go first because I'm doing my research.
Okay. Well, so I got two. This is what happens when I win one. I start to get greedy, and I start to get, then I start throwing out 2, and then 3, and then 4, and obviously it ends up sort of all coming crashing down in a house of cards manner. But I'm going to give out 2 this week after coming up big last week. I got one in Leagues Cup on Thursday when Club America faces St. Louis, and both these teams score a lot of goals. St. Louis will have been coming off of a really sort of weird road trip. They went to Columbus. They were on a rain delay until 10 o'clock at night when they finally got the game started. They ended up losing to Columbus 2-1. They're going back home. I assume this is back in St. Louis, where they always score goals and they always play well. And Club America is a team that can always put up points. So I love over America versus St. Louis on Thursday. That's one. And then number 2, you guys probably would have no way of knowing this, by the way, Jeff and Katie, but I dig deep in my research here. Like I've done games in the Japanese second league. I go everywhere. Whatever the overs lead me, that's where I go. This time we're going to Latvia. Latvia on Sunday. RFS is playing a team who is on my almost always bet list. FK Tukums 2000. That's just my pronunciation is probably terrible, but it's Tukums. FK, kind of like FC. Tukums 2000. Great name. They give up 1 million goals. RFS, one of the best teams in the Latvian league, that has overwritten all over it. Those are my 2 winners. Just handing them out like candy. You guys are welcome. Jeff, what do you got for us?
All right, I'm gonna go LA Galaxy money line at plus 130 because I saw on Twitter today that Club Leon was stuck in the airport and couldn't travel, couldn't practice, just a lot of things working against them. So that's one. And then I want to do another one just for fun. So I will say, I like that Club America game we're talking about. I'm going to say Atlanta. I'm going to say Atlanta beats Miami money line in Messi's first start.
Right. They're talking about Messi starting in that game. You're going against the grain on that one. All right.
You get them at plus, because here's the thing. Miami's still not good. Like they're not, they still have a lot to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not the craziest bet.
You know what I like in that game?
Those are my 2.
I like the over. You guys will
What'd
be
you
shocked to
say?
hear. Because Atlanta scores a lot of goals and they get scored on a lot. And Miami with Messi and Busquets, who the hell knows what they're all about these days. But okay, I like the call, especially the Galaxy game. Because I actually had that written down in my GOAWs section. Whoever's been scheduling Club Leon's travel, yeah, you're not doing very good at your job right now.
Yeah, the picture the video of them in the airport was
yeah, they're all
rather
sprawled out around the airport when they're supposed to be in LA, training for their game tomorrow. So that sucks for Club Leon. And also another reason, like the fact that these Mexican teams are basically being forced to travel around the US for a month, like away from home. Like that's, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
They might not have the same players union that the MLS has.
Probably not.
I think the union, I think we would have put up quite a fight with that one.
Yes. So maybe this will be a learning moment in that sense too. All right, now we'll move on to GOAWs. So this is a GOATest of all week, as you guys know, but Katie and Jeff, I don't know if this is definitely Katie's first time throwing out a GOA. So I think we're gonna throw her to the wolves and say you got to go first.
God.
Okay, if I'm interpreting this right, I think it's probably my favorite of all week was whoever was doing the meme with Messi, and he is very pudgy looking because he had one too many pub subs. I thought that intelligent Florida joke I've ever heard. Like you could have had him like riding his alligator to work or something, but like the pub sub thing was classic because he was just shopping in Publix, and I was like, oh, that's my guy. That meme funny. Like I don't repost memes, but I reposted that one because it was just too good.
As
So
a,
whoever did it was great.
That's great. I mean, as a Florida man, Jeff probably has some thoughts on that. Which pub sub do you think he went with?
Well, the rumors were he went the cart looked straight cereal, but I mean you only get pudgy that way if you're going with the tender sub. So if he was doing like the chicken tendies with the ranch on it, with the cheese and the bread and the white bread, that's destined to be a little bit that's destined to get him a little bit pudgy. I made a funny video though about all the different Florida stuff he should knock out while he's down here. It was a pretty good list.
Oh
it was
man,
it's a pretty fun list.
I always forget. We have literally an expert. I'm using literally way too much this episode, but we have an expert on being a Florida man, and with Jeff, we can always call on you if we got some, Florida man questions.
He's off to a good start with the public trip.
It's
Get
true.
him a pair of jean shorts. Get him a pair of jean shorts. If he cuts them himself, we're really cooking with gas. There's a lot of different things he could be knocking out down here.
I like it. All right, good Goa. What's yours, Jeff?
Man, I'm not great at this, but honestly, I just want to give a shout out to Jake Zivin, who he was the broadcaster. He was the broadcaster in Portland when I was there. Incredible human being, and he was on the call for the Messi goal. So it's like the call heard around the world, and I thought he just crushed it. And I'm just happy for him. So I'll give him a shout out. I know he's getting a lot of recognition anyway, but he's the man, and he got on a call that literally has been picked up by billions of people, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of not FaceTime but voice time out of that one for sure. We're always big on giving commentators some love around here. Tyler Terrens is always or off and on, so and he's among the Apple TV commentators for MLS. So I'm glad he gave a little shout out to Jake Zivin there. Okay, I got a whole host of names because I always put a bunch down just in case somebody's going to steal mine. So I'll give a couple honorable mentions out. One of them was going to be the Club Leon travel, coordinator, because they obviously dropped the ball big time. Another one, Shaka Hislop. So there was this video going around on it was going around on Twitter, but it was actually live on TV, I think on ESPN or ESPN2, because I think it was before the AC Milan Real Madrid match, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was it was before the game because Dan Thomas came on at halftime. But Shaka, they didn't say what happened, but he just sort of fainted on live TV, and it was really scary in real time. Dan Thomas came on at halftime and said, he's stable, he's being treated by medical professionals, he's whatever, conscious and responsive and everything. And then he put out Shaka Hislop put out a video just a couple of hours ago saying, he didn't say what the issue was or whatever, which is totally understandable. It's a personal health issue, but it seemed like he was doing okay. So that's the good news. In the moment though, that was one of those really scary things where you're sort of
the video is scary, man.
Right. You see somebody having a real health issue on TV like that's just man. And you're so helpless too. So it's just layers of not goodness. But sounds like he's okay. Also, two that I'm going to put together into the Goa this week are people who, and these are two examples of what we're going to have to deal with a lot more often moving forward as the game of soccer just becomes bigger. You're going to have a lot of people sort of flying their not helicopter parents, but helicopter fans or helicopter hot take artists, which I guess is what I'm going to put these guys in that category. So they are Nate Silver and Jody Rosen. So Nate Silver,
I know the Jody one.
So Jody, we'll start with Jody. So Jody Rosen he's a writer. He wrote something for the New Yorker magazine. And I actually read it. The tweet about it was extra inflammatory. obviously, because they wanted to get engagement. But the tweet was, Lionel Messi's game-deciding goal at the League's Cup sent the crowd into raptures, but the celebration seemed out of proportion to the occasion. Jody Rosen writes, "It felt silly, maybe even a little sad." And this to me just feels like the biggest, like, I just have a poop in my pants like moment. Like, just, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, I get it. Like, I get where you're coming from with the story. I do understand it. There's ways to write the story that wouldn't have been so, it's sort of, demeaning and just jackass. So it just, the story itself, I understand, but like, let people have fun, let people enjoy things, right? Like, Messi is a huge story. He's great for the game. He's great for people like all of us on this program, and most of the people, probably all the people listening, who've been fans of the sport for most of our, if not our whole lives. And it's just cool to see, the sport gaining recognition, gaining, new casual fans coming into it, and sort of just seeing this and seeing the best player to ever do it, perhaps score a game-winning goal in the last second of his debut for his American team. Just let fucking people have some fun and enjoy it. Don't write your
In
little
front of LeBron,
hoity-toity.
in front of Kim Kardashian, in
Right.
front of like all of these people. And the celebration wasn't even that crazy. Like I've seen people celebrate goals when they're like losing that hard.
It just
Like,
was exactly. It just, the story itself felt like
yeah.
somebody who's like probably a sports fan, clearly not like a very big soccer fan. I mean, he called Luis Suarez Chilean. It's just like, obviously kind of a helicopter hot take artist. I don't know if that's a new term, but like, dude, just
Anti-fun is what that
yeah,
guy
it's
is.
total fun police move. New Yorker magazine with its, guy with his monocle and everything is actually just absolutely perfect for this, because like, it was just like everybody's enjoying, this awesome goal and the fun and celebration and the, game winning, blah blah blah. And then of course, like, Jody Rosen, the intellectual, comes up with this, that's actually kind of sad that you guys are enjoying that game. Fuck you, Jody Rosen. So that's number one. Number two, and I'm, by the way, Jody Rosen's probably a nice guy, but listen, if you're gonna come, you bring something a little better than that next time you come into the kitchen. Also, Nate Silver, same sort of idea here. I mean, the guy, everybody knows Nate Silver, right? He's like the guy from 538 or 538 or whatever. I think his forte is, data modeling and stuff, and then he's sort of gotten involved with like political stuff. So his tweet was, "It's great." There's two tweets. The first one, "It's great that Messi is here, but it seems obvious to me that the US should have one of the best football leagues in the world. Just seems weird, like a weird market inefficiency that we don't." Like, my God, that's not even the worst one, though. Okay, the second tweet is the one that actually got people a little, like, actually exercised. That one is sort of like, you're just kind of oblivious. You don't really know what's going on here, Nate. Then somebody responded to him. "There's a lot of reasons, but the Champions League is probably the largest obstacle. Brazil should too, but Flamengo would be heavy relegation candidates in the Prem." Wow, this tweet is all over the place. "The Champions League money is immense and has a huge knock-on effects." So then Nate Silver responded to this and said, "I mean, I'd tweet out how I think the Premier League and thereby access to the Champions League should be open to US franchises, but that's the tweet that might actually get me canceled." It's not going to get you canceled, Nate. It's just going to sort of expose you as not knowing a fucking thing about the world of soccer and how it works is the problem here. And the whole point of me going on this little rant is there's going to be a lot more of this. So we soccer fans, the royal we better get used to it. And we better, perhaps find a way to not be so, aggressive in our responses to these people. And I'm saying that as somebody who just went on a 5-minute long rant, calling them both oblivious and jackasses. but we just got to get used to this. It's a good thing ultimately. Like in the grand scheme of things, this is a good thing that we're going to be having more of this, but we got to get used to it. And I'm
It's
basically
going to be a
talking to myself.
listen, it's going to be a trying time for U.S. soccer diehards. It's going to be a real trying time. You know, Skip Bayless is going to be talking about Messi on his show. You know, there's going to be people that have never even watched the game of soccer talking about it, trying to grow the game. But that it's going to be. You're so right. I haven't thought about that.
It's the
It's going
price
to be
we
a
pay.
real trying time for like the MLS diehards to welcome new people in.
100%. It's the price that we have to pay, and so we better get used to it because it's happening.
Oh,
It's
man.
already starting, and you know when things really start ramping up, I mean Messi is really sort of accelerating the process. But you know when we get up to like 2026, Messi's been here a couple years. Perhaps other people have followed him, and then 2026 when the World Cup happens. Yeah, we need to be ready.
Inclusive. Here's the thing: we need to be inclusive
That's
as
the
a soccer
problem. We're
community.
so
It's the only way to grow
insecure.
the game.
We're so
It's the only
insecure.
way.
We're so
If
insecure
someone
and
says they
so
watch
insular.
Wrexham, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta love those people. Oh, you want to watch soccer because of Ted Lasso? Cool. Come on in. Let me tell you about it. You got to bring these people in, man.
It's
Unity.
true. It's true. It's true. But
Truth, man. It's the only way. It's the only way the game grows is if you get if you're okay with people that prefer American foot, like American football is number one, but they want to start dabbling with soccer and they don't know anything. You gotta let them in. You gotta be accepting of that. That's the only way the game grows.
100%. As somebody who spent years and years and years trying to kind of write about soccer to like a Barstool audience, which is the audience that we need to sort of bring in if we're going to grow the game. I know the challenges. I know it well. And even I still get caught up in that like low hanging fruit trap of clapping back and dunking. It's like dunking on a 4-foot rim, on Nate Silver and his obliviousness to the way that soccer works. Even I still get caught in that trap. So
gotta open up, man. Gotta let them in. It's the only
yeah.
way.
So really that I was ranting at them, but really I was trying to convince myself to stop being so
trying to find yourself.
That's
to find yourself through the conversation.
That's right. All right, that's all we got, Jeff. Katie, thank you. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you'll come back and share some more of your knowledge with us again in the near future. Thanks for hopping on, and everybody else, thank you for listening. But we're not done. Time to throw it to a chat with Timmy Parker. Here we go.